nerdiest prime.
Riker becomes like, he's like, off to have sexy time, but then he's in charge after that. Like, I feel like they lost their own plot halfway through.
Yeah, and you can't take him seriously because you just see one nipple, and that's from Riker, and it's really disconcerting. Like, none or all of them, not just one. There's half measures here.
The Enterprise crew return for the most sexist, anti-sexist, next-generation episode, where women are big, strong, and still completely dependent on men. And we get to see Riker in his infamous one-nipple shirt. On their way to some Romulan C-plot that never pays off, the USS Enterprise comes across a distress signal that leads them to the matriarchal planet, Angel 1. Picard decides to place Counsellor Troi in command of the away team, in deference to the planet's society. But that will last only 5 minutes, as Riker will step in and undermine her immediately. On the planet, the away team, consisting of Troi, Yar, Data, and Riker, meet the elected one, Beata, the leader of Angel 1, who is dodgy about details of the survivors and makes a passing reference to Data being a sex toy. She makes it no secret that she's turned on by Riker, who is, quote, unlike any man she's ever met. Meanwhile, on the ship, Wesley throws a snowball from the holodeck, and that somehow causes a ship-wide virus that's more tame than the common cold. And there's some vague talk about a Romulan situation in the neutral zone in a failed attempt to create some dramatic tension. Dr. Crusher gets going to cure the viral annoyance while Picard loses his voice and his command to Geordi. Conveniently, Data figures out that the planet contains no platinum, the one element that can be found on the survivors. He orders Geordi to look for platinum on the planet's surface, while Riker slips into something more comfortable to seduce the elected one, because that's how diplomacy works, and Troi and Yar make fun of him for looking so sexy. Data, Troi, and Yar follow the platinum detected on the planet to a cave where the leader of the survivors, named Ramsey, refuses to leave the planet. Like an interstellar Che Guevara, he wants to stay and fight against discrimination. After the away team leaves, Beata's second-in-command, Ariel, comes out of Ramsey's cave. Gasp. They're in cahoots. Brianna is showing off her crystal to Riker when her whipping boy keeps interrupting their pillow talk to tell them that the away team has returned without Ramsey. Beata says she has no choice but to sentence the rebel men to death. Ramsey and his followers face execution by Amiga toaster effects, but a quick speech by Riker convinces Beata to change her entire sexist society and bow to the manosphere. Crusher cures the common cold, and a voiceless Picard orders the Enterprise into the neutral zone to doubtlessly have an amazing battle with the Romulans that we'll never get to see. The end.
Hi, and welcome to Nerdiest Prime, where we are reviewing every episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, and we are at Angel 1, Namir's favorite episode. Let's start with our first thoughts, first impressions. Let's start with Jenny.
Well, first impressions going into this episode. Yeah, once again, I'm just getting into the vibe of like rewatching these episodes in a different way, because this one in particular has always been an episode that I'm like, oh right, Angel 1, and then I'm like, I watch it, but I'm not like really watching it. Like I'm watching it, but I'm not like watching it, Like I'm just like,
you're not invested.
It's on the list, So, yeah, and I found, even though I was watching it this time, it still kind of felt that way. I was like, all right, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's got its moments, but it's not my thing.
All right, Namir.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the memory of Angel 1 is always worse than actually watching it. Like,
yes.
When I remember it, I'm like, oh man, that episode was trash. And then I watch it and I'm like, it's it's fine. It's okay. It's like totally neutral, right? It's not great. It's not terrible. It's just sort of right down the middle. It has parts that are problematic. I guess we'll talk about that. But there are also like some funny bits in it, and it's fine.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like beige. It's like the Star Trek version of beige.
That was the best review ever. Okay, Alan.
This is like bottom of the barrel Star Trek for me. I find this one because it's so paper thin that they actually have to have 3 plots in this one, because there's there's the Angel One, and then there's the virus, and then there's the ticking clock of we need to get to the neutral zone. And this is like a perfect example of the Simpsons trip to the fireworks factory in the Poochie episode. It's like you just want to see the Enterprise get to this confrontation with the Romulans in the neutral zone. Instead, we spent a lot of time with Riker just trying to bed this bad actress and blah, 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 blah. And it's super boring. Nothing happens of any sort of interest. And it's like, you just want to see this Romulan thing going on. That's all I want to see. I'm like, I hope, I know what happens because I've watched this episode many times already. But, if I was a first timer, I'd be like, oh boy, it's like the Romulans are stirring up shit. And it's like, boom. Never happens, and then never mention it again, and I hate that.
Yeah. For the number of times I've seen this episode, the fact that I was like, oh, right, they're talking about the Romulans all the time in this one.
I know it was like the first mention.
Such a, yeah.
And you get super excited when it happens.
Well, I don't mind this episode at all. I think it's a little bit like Namir. Like, it's not as bad as I think it's going to be. And the fact that I have not watched it many times, like other episodes, because I have this memory of it not being that good, it's kind of refreshing when I'm watching it. It's like going deep down and finding an old book or something. And I've always loved this idea of the, matriarchal society and exploring sexism through this lens. I mean, I think the way that they do it in the episode is very 80s, and it's very problematic in different ways, but, at least they're trying. So, I like that. And, okay, let's dive right in.
Ready to begin orbit of Angel 1, Captain.
Make it so, Mr. LaForge. What kind of place is this, Data?
It is governed by a parliamentary body consisting of 6 elected mistresses and headed by a female they refer to as the Elected One.
It sounds like my own planet.
Klingons appreciate strong women.
Let's talk about the plot. So as Alan mentioned, there are 3 plots. Plot number 1 is rescuing these people off the matriarchal planet, but they're going to cause basically a manosphere revolution or something. And then the B plot is them getting sick on the ship, and 3 is there's some sort of mysterious crisis of something brewing in the neutral zone. So let's talk about the plot and give our impressions of each plot. No, let's do one plot at a time. Let's do. It's gonna be too long otherwise. And let's do. How do we feel about the Angel One plot rescuing the Marxist rebels? Let's start with Amir.
Are they Marxist rebels?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear because I was like, otherwise I really misinterpreted this entire episode. I thought it was fine. I thought it was an interesting, I know what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to provide like the social commentary that makes a lot of Star Trek episodes really strong, but it still feels like a little dated. And I don't remember if that's how it felt when I was first watching it. But it's, it definitely feels that way now, like they're pointing out, I don't know how to even put this. Like, they're pointing out outdated ideas around sexism by making that a really huge part of the episode. And not even from the writer's perspective, but from the perspective of the actual characters, right? Because they're kind of like, oh, this planet is run by women. Oh my gosh, it's amazing, but it's the future, and they're exploring the galaxy. There must be like hundreds and hundreds of planets like that. Like this should not be a surprise to them, but that's the way that they're kind of talking about it. And it feels off. It feels very weird. So that to me puts that whole plot line on a back burner. Like I just can't get behind the motivations of it, right? I kind of like how there's some moments where, Riker puts on that weirdly sexy outfit, and Troi and Tasha are kind of like having some fun around it, and that kind of makes those characters more human. So I like those moments. But the entire subplot with Mistress Beata is like it's totally lame. I just wish that didn't exist whatsoever. Like if I could watch an edited version of the episode without that subplot, I'd be much happier with this episode.
I very much agree with Namir's thoughts on that. The fact that like right off the bat in this episode, Picard puts Troi in charge of this mission, and she's like doing stuff and actually like in taking charge and having the conversations, and then gets completely sidelined. And then, and then like Riker becomes like, he's like, oh, good, off to have sexy time. And then, but then he's in charge after that. There's no, I find that really frustrating to watch. That's really frustrating. I feel like they lost their own plot halfway through.
Yeah, and you can't take them seriously because you just see one nipple, and that's from Riker, and it's really disconcerting. I'm like, none or all of them, not just one. There's half measures here.
Yeah, and it's funny too because Trent has his is a little more. I don't know. He's just like.
Open neck.
He's less like out there, like
Yeah,
Trent is, he's leaving a little to the imagination, Good old Trent.
It like Jenny said, it just falls apart. Like you say, they had an opportunity here to do some interesting things. But yeah, I never really thought about that. But yeah, it's like Troi and Yar. There's two characters there that could totally be relating to these indigenous people of this planet, and they're just kind of just background characters. Riker just kind of steals the thunder, and it's like, I'm gonna do all the speeches and the diplomatic liaisons. But yeah, this was. Again, I watch a lot of science fiction, probably more so than you guys. And so, a woman-dominated society. Well, I mean, it's like an Amazonian type culture.
Yeah.
That's just been done. It's been done to death.
I think Jenny has a problem with what you just said, Alan.
Well, no, I know Jenny's watched quite a bit too. But
I would say that she.
I know you have not watched any of my recommendations.
Yeah.
So. Well, I just mean
he was talking about you, Jenny. He was talking about me and Namir.
I'm just saying it's kind of like it's one of those cliche plots in science fiction where astronaut goes to a Amazonian woman dominated planet or something. It's just it's been done and they're not really doing anything. I mean, well, going by today's standards too, we're not doing anything here that's groundbreaking. So
yeah.
It's just kind of weak all around, and I just didn't enjoy it.
But it also has this sort of like, it's trying to point out sexism, and well, there's the thing that you mentioned, Jenny, which is then the episode itself is sexist by the way that the female characters are sidelined, and they're kind of given like this token like, command role, or even like Mistress Beata, who's like the leader of the planet, but she's like, as soon as Riker gets in her bed, she's just like, oh my God, I just waited my whole life for a man like you to come, here and all this sort of stuff. But I think also it reminds me, especially in this day and age, with sort of the culture wars and everything going on, like it reminds me of a movie I think that came out in 1995 called White Man's Burden with John Travolta and Harry Belafonte. And basically in the story, African Americans are sort of the dominant class, and European descendants are, the lower class. And it's supposed to be like reverse racism and kind of, I think the idea is to be like, well, imagine if you're white, imagine what it'd be like to be black. This would be feel like, But it kind of also plays into this crazy conspiracy theorist, like paranoid thing of how, white supremacists now kind of go like, all the foreigners are taking over. We can't, this sort of thing. And so this episode, even though it's supposed to be this sort of progressive, anti-sexist episode, in a weird way, it's kind of this like worst nightmare. What if all the women were in charge? What would we do? This kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it kind of fails on that. But it's interesting that, I asked about the plot, but we end up talking more about the themes about sexism, because the plot of the episode is about how they're trying to rescue these guys, but these guys are gonna like, there's a whole like
start a patriarchy.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring the energy.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too, is like, I felt like in this episode too, like it didn't really, like, other than like a throwaway line from Ramsey, they didn't really depict how the men are suffering on this planet. There was really no example.
They're not.
Like, nobody looked like they were having a bad time.
They're fine.
They look like, I like just hanging out. And
they've taken wives. They're all set.
I know. It's like it's like I didn't feel like there was any oppression or anybody is like having a real shitty time on this planet. Like if they had to show something like that, like men being treated brutally or whatever, like that would make it more compelling. But their struggle didn't seem compelling because they're just like, oh, these are all reasonable women and they like to treat their men nice and but I didn't see a problem.
But also
they're lower.
But they didn't seem to be suffering. Like they didn't depict that at all. So it made it hard.
Seemed very happy, aside from the fact that he couldn't be with the elected one.
Yeah, he's very jealous.
Yeah. The other thing that I thought was missing was, I think there's like a throwaway line at the end where Riker's like, he's like, the waves of revolution on your planet, and
I'm like, what revolution?
What are you talking about? Where did this come from? There's like no indication that the planet is in turmoil. There's like a revolution, like a male revolution. I just didn't understand it.
The idea that these, that 4 women decided to go off and marry these guys, that's just feminism in that these women can do whatever they want to do. So like, what are they rebelling against?
I don't know. Totally.
Now that it's been established, okay, you can go get married. You're gonna have to go live over there, but whatever. You want to do that, go for it. And what, in 20 years there might be like 10 kids, maybe. And then in 20 years, like it's ludicrous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I know. Like they could have told Beata that they're gonna go marry, these guys, and her answer should have been like, okay.
Yes.
All right. Why are you telling me? Just go do it.
Yeah.
I don't care. I have a planet to run.
And it's not like they have 50 other guys waiting in the background for, to like, hey, come on, we're gonna get all these women married.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, how does this society procreate?
What?
Like,
wait, what? I don't say your question, Jenny. Do you mean like who carries the young?
I mean, assuming that they're like humanoid-ish in a standard way. And yeah.
Okay, yes.
Actually, you know what? That's a great question. Because what's standard really? What is standard in a galactic way?
It's such a broad overview of their society. Like, who knows? Who knows? They didn't. There's no world building here at all.
Yeah.
But I think that's the issue with the whole episode is it tends to be very generic on all the fronts, right? Yeah. There's a cold on the spaceship. It's just a random cold. There's nothing specific or nasty about this illness. It could maybe kill somebody, but it's just basically...
There's no risk to it. There's no tension or stakes at all. Like, it's just like, oh, everybody has the sniffles. Oh, darn.
Cold is really inconvenient.
Yeah, very inconvenient.
Yeah, and then, and then what's going on with the Rollins, that's also very, like, generic. It's just some vague threat. But everything that goes... Like, there were elements of this episode that were invoking the Prime Directive in the same way as Justice and kind of dealing with this sort of, like, what do we do with the Prime Directive? This is we can't take these people away against their will and all this sort of stuff. And Riker being like, damn the rules. I'm not going to let them die here and all this sort of stuff. But it was all kind of sort of generic. And so that's kind of what you guys are talking about is the lack of specificity. What specificity? No, I don't know how to say it.
Specificity.
Oh, man.
Specificity. That's right. Specifics. The lack of specifics.
There you go.
Oh my God.
And all in like just like all the questions we're asking, like how does this happen? How does that happen? Why do we care? Like what's the threat? Why is it so bad? And I think that's really like the concept and the look of the episode is there's a lot of interesting things going on, but because it's the stakes are very vague and it's hard to like really sink your teeth into it.
What do you think?
Well, I gotta say, it's kind of sexy.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yeah, I really feel like this episode was written so that we could see like a single Riker nipple and him in bed with somebody. Like I think that's like it feels like that's why we have this episode.
I'm trying to remember too. Is this the most Riker chest we see in TNG? I feel like this is the most we see of bare chested Riker.
And now that you mention that,
and
I realize
why did we see more?
Yeah, and we see way more Picard chests. Even in this episode,
I know. That's what I'm trying to say. Does anybody take their shirt off in this show? Like Kirk had his shirt off every episode, but it's like, oh, Picard has his shirt off too.
But like it's like the only two people that never had their shirt off is I guess no Worf had his shirt off in Ethics, but he was lying down on the table, and this is amazing that we're talking about this. And then LaForge had his shirt off in
Identity Crisis,
Parallels,
and Parallels.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it feels like Picard every second episode, but Riker just but no Data at all because Data is like an android. So
his chest in the last episode in Data lore.
Oh, that's right. Saw his chest,
including nipples.
Did we really? I thought he had like clothes on for some reason.
In the surgery bay, looking through the little window.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. But I could have sworn he still had a shirt on.
No, I saw nipples.
No.
I saw nipples.
So like little LEDs.
It's almost like Jonathan Frakes had like a clause in his contract, like I'm not taking my shirt off, I'm not going stooping that low, but this, if one nipple is fine, but no more.
Yeah, the single nipple clause.
Yeah.
Status report.
82 more reported cases of the virus, sir. Dr. Crusher's converted the holodeck into an isolation ward.
We talked about it a little bit already, but let's talk about the B plot, which is there's two parts to the B plot. There's the cold of the virus, whatever it is, the Enterprise / LaForge's first command. because he has to take over. How do we feel about this B plot? Let's start with Alan.
Well, the cold had no stakes, so it was kind of a throwaway B plot. It seemed like time filler because their main plot was so thin that they added this on, and it felt unrelated. Like it just tacked on. Like it's one of those examples of an A-B plot that just doesn't really mesh. But again, like you say, that was a good moment for LaForge to take command. Like we did have, I will give it credit where credit is due. We had some good little character moments like that. That's the thing I guess saves this episode is those little character moments, because the plot itself is not big.
Scanners indicate a platinum trace. Should I notify the away team?
Make it so.
Yeah, I would agree with Alan. Like it's, again, this whole episode was just very like flat, kind of like right down the middle. And I don't really know why this B plot existed. Like I have no, like there's no reason. Like usually when you have multiple plot lines, at least two of them share a theme of some kind, like it kind of makes it a bit more cohesive. This was like just out of the blue. They were like, well, we need something to add some tension, to the episode. And so they came up with this. They came up with this ridiculous idea where the viruses are transmitted through the air. You're like, yeah, that's how a lot of viruses are transmitted. Like it's not rocket science here. You guys are in the future. You should know this.
The virus wants to be smelled.
What does that smell?
Yes. Slightly reminiscent of night-blooming Throgni, Captain. From home.
I don't understand that.
That sounds really gross.
Yeah, I don't. I don't get it.
There's a whole sub-theme of smell in this episode, because there's the virus that needs to be smelt or smells like something, but then there's a whole conversation with perfume.
Was Worf the carrier? Because they kept saying, Worf mentioned that.
No, it was the kids.
It took me 30 years to figure out how this virus started. I finally figured it out.
Smells like a Klingon, like something Klingon. She says in one line.
Worf said it smelled familiar.
And then Beverly says it later.
It was dumb. It was just dumb.
So it made me think that
was
Worf.
Tell me, Jenny, what's the what did you figure out?
Apparently, there's a quick line that the kids went to a field trip on Quasilite or something like that. And that's, up until now, I thought the holodeck made the virus in a snowball, and that was how it got spread. No,
that's
it
what
was
I thought
just a
too.
Snowball, turns out.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, but you're
the
right.
kids picked it up on a field trip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally listen to the dialogue.
Well, I'm like, why? I didn't know. I get the Klingon line that Beverly said, because that's why I thought it was something to do with Worf, but it was.
Yeah, no, because Picard is like, what am I smelling? And Worf is like, it smells like something from when I was a kid or whatever. And then Beverly says it smells like something, and then says like something Klingon. Like I feel like she didn't even mention anything Klingon about it. Like it was.
Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird line.
It was one of those things where like somebody talks as though they were in the earlier conversation, but they actually weren't. But the writers were.
Yeah. Also, the virus doesn't really make a lot of sense, because I think what's supposed to be happening is like the virus is supposed to smell like something pleasing to that specific person, right? So to Worf, it's like, so to Worf, it's like, this smells like something from my childhood, right? But the thing is, like, in order for it to be transmitted,
like bacon.
after, exactly, like after Worf sneezes all over the bridge, it should smell like something that LaForge is really, is really like, oh, that smells like bacon from back home, right? And it's just because that's how the virus is being transmitted, because Worf is sneezing all over the console.
Yeah, that would be an interesting. That would actually be an interesting virus.
Right? Yeah, exactly. That virus wouldn't make sense, other than what we had all thought for 30 years, that it was created by the holodeck, and we're like, how does that work?
Like, I literally wrote that down at the first because I was like, wait a minute, did the holodeck make this virus? Like, I was like, I was like ready to get really upset about it. Oh, they got it on field trip. Oh, okay. Sure.
I thought the holodeck was the field trip, though, but that was my understanding.
No,
it's
it's so dumb. Like,
it's so confusing.
They got back from a field trip and then had to go to a skiing lesson on the holodeck.
Okay, all right, yeah,
yeah.
Also, the other thing I'm always confused by this, but doesn't the transporter filter out viruses?
Yep.
Oh. Okay.
Sure does.
What ones they know about? I never understood that about the filter too. It's like, how can it filter out something it doesn't know anything about?
The transporter is like, oh, they got that on the field trip. It's probably fine.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, I think the only purpose the virus serves is like it's sort of a filler. It's like they didn't have enough stuff to talk about or do down on the planet, and so they had to create some sort of tension on the ship so that eventually they wouldn't be able
and a timeline,
but also beam up because remember they're trying to evacuate the people, and then that becomes an impediment to the evacuation.
Yeah,
and then there's this other thing. The problem is that the Romulan C-plot never pans out. But the idea is like, oh my God, we're not going to be ready for the Romulans because we're all going to be sick. But since that never happens, if the Romulans were on their way to them and we're like, ticking time bomb, they'll be here in 10 minutes. We better get but it's like whenever we're good, we'll head over there.
Well, that's my main complaint about like this, the B plot line is that it's totally unnecessary. Right, because if they needed some sort of ticking time bomb and some pressure, it's the whole Romulan thing that is that, right? Because they have to leave to do something, right, to protect to man the neutral zone, but they can't leave because they have to rescue these stranded, whatever transporter ship guys from Angel One, right? So that they automatically have that tension. So I don't know why Picard needed to be sick. Like it just didn't make any sense to me.
This is quite unnecessary, Doctor. I'm fine.
You're infected with the virus, Captain. In my opinion, you are no longer physically able to effectively command this vessel.
That is ridiculous, Doctor.
It jumps from the planet to Picard's ready room, and Beverly is at a 10, getting upset with Picard, who we barely know is sick at this point. And it's like they've been fighting about it, but it's like the scene starts at 10, so there's like nowhere to go. And then she convinces him to leave. It's just, I don't know, it's weird. It's just a weird scene that sort of doesn't have a beginning. And then off they go. The Geordi thing is my favorite part of the episode, because LeVar Burton, when Geordi gets into command, when like in the first season and this one in Arsenal of Freedom, like he's like so serious about it, and I love that. And then also the little exchange with him and Worf, where Worf was like, "Dude, you need to stay on the bridge. You're in charge," And I was like, "Oh, Worf's being a good friend. That's awesome."
But it was like the best of the best of Geordi, because he sits in the command chair. He says, "Make it so." He's about to go to engineering to help them in engineering, even though he's not the engineer yet. And then, then Worf helps him out. Yeah,
exactly. And I also just had a question about really going to Picard's quarters with whatever that drink was. Is she doing that for everyone? Is that like, is it the service she's providing for the entire crew?
Nope. No, that's only, I'm telling you, Picard's the dad and Beverly's the mom. So that's what's going on there.
Well, that's what made no sense to you. It just seemed like that everybody's getting sick and everybody's incapacitated, and then all of a sudden she has a cure. There was like, it didn't seem like there was.
She realized.
It didn't seem like there was like
about the smell.
Like it was very anticlimactic. Like
it was like that helped her isolate it, but it didn't make any sense.
Like if they had killed a few red shirts with it, that would have made it more,
literally. Like Wesley's friend.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, kill a boy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Started off big time,
Raise the stakes.
Yeah, no, raise the stakes. There's just zero stakes. It's so unengaging.
But also the virus, like if you think about the virus, in Star Trek, they're interesting viruses, like the one that Naked Now. It's the viruses that makes people like act drunk and funny or dangerous or something. And then, or there was the virus in Deep Space Nine and Babel, where like it means that nobody can understand each other's languages or whatever it was. But the point is, it's like a science fiction concept. The virus, you grow 3 heads or something happens. But this is just a cold, basically.
Yeah. And if they really want to, they could probably work through it. And I think everybody everybody just has a man cold on this ship. Like, it's like, come on, just suck it up. You're just like a little bit drowsy and congested. I'm like, just do your job.
Yeah, just put on a face mask and everybody's fine.
Nobody's sneezing anywhere.
Do they not have decongestants in the future?
Do you not know what a man cold is, Lucas?
No.
No, you don't know that term? Where guys like overblow their sick symptoms? Where it's like, just they're like, oh, they can't possibly function.
Then their wives have the same cold and they're running the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I see. No. Though this is a good. We'll go to the theme of the.
Maybe that's the theme of the B-plot, because Beverly was the one that was like solving everything, and everybody else had this man cold.
That's amazing.
and all the men were like,
"Oh, that's amazing."
Mr. Forge, engage.
Sir?
Hey, I like
Can't fight
that.
the Romulans.
Did anybody think it was ridiculous too that Data calculated exactly how long he could remain in orbit? I'm like, that's a pretty, even for an android, that's quite a reach. For it's like I had to calculate how long the outpost and USS Berlin could withstand a Romulan attack. I'm like, you don't know the variables.
Yeah.
But also,
it's pretty impressive for someone who doesn't know what perfume is.
Yeah.
You're predicting all the evasive actions that these ships are going to take in the battle, and how long they can hold out, and the competency of their commanders and everything.
But more to the point, he doesn't have any problems letting them fight it out with the Romulans. If he was like, no. We should get there like before the Romulans show up.
10% casualties will be fine. Yeah,
they'll be fine. We'll be fine.
It just made no sense. Oh.
Data, I gave you direct orders to get to the neutral zone immediately. Explain the delay.
To be precise, Commander, you ordered me to reach the neutral zone before it is too late.
Yeah, that was amazing.
One little scene that I wanted to highlight and hear everybody's thoughts about is specifically the sort of gender reversal kind of scene where Riker, as Namir put his one nipple shirt on. And so there's a whole thing there where where Yar and Troi are making fun of Riker, and Riker's like, what are you talking about? When I was on this planet, I wore feathers, and I'm not a sex object. You can't treat me like this. So anyways, what do we feel about this? And I want to hear from Jenny first.
I guess for me, I didn't sort of see it as like it's the kind of like there because you've got those built-in power dynamics there, right? So like them making fun of him or them objectifying him is a completely different thing than him objectifying them.
Right.
It's just like
yes. Well, so because
what
I think
what else do you want from me? Yeah.
No, because the episode, I think what the episode is saying is like him getting dressed up, in a sexy shirt would be the equivalent of I don't know, like a woman wearing a short dress or something, and then the men in the room commenting on the short dress.
Right.
So I think that what the scene is trying to do is saying, well, men, pay attention. Would you like to be treated like this? Sort of, I think. And that's what Riker's indignation is like, don't treat me like this. And he's sort of, I think, supposed to be like channeling like how women feel and how women should stand up for themselves or something. This is kind of what I was reading into it.
I don't know. I mean, I I don't really. I understand what you're saying, but I choose to look at that moment like it's just a funny, kind of awkward thing between coworkers where they're not as professional as they should be, right? Because like we know that the like dress, like the way they dress themselves is kind of cross gender lines because with the skirts and all of that, right? Like it's just because Riker looks so ridiculous, you know, in what he's wearing. It's just it's funny. So I'm gonna choose to just kind of look at it at that level.
I mean, I think the moment for me that was the most like, ooh, there it is, was when she told him later on, like, you're actually pretty smart, for a guy, you know, like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, that one, yeah, that's actually like, yeah. I know that one. I think where they're talking about how he looks and like and the outfit and everything, it's all way too good natured. They're all too like they're friends, right? It would be a completely other thing if he had come out of there and there were 2 or 3 women from the planets who were like, blah, blah, blah. That would be a totally different thing. But because it's Troi and Yar and they're just like, yeah, you look like an idiot, you know. It takes away some of the impact, I think, of any kind of like social critique or, you know.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it was well done. I'm just saying that's what I think was going on in the episode. That they kept trying to do this gender reversal stuff, but as you pointed out, like, I don't know. I mean, Riker sort of he as soon as he kind of engages with all the women, he just kind of like whatever they're trying to say with the episode kind of just like gets destroyed because
I don't see it with that scene. Like, what would the opposite of that be? So let's say that Riker was not okay. So let's say that Riker was a female character, right? So what would they put that character in to elicit the same response?
Oh, like in every movie where there's like a creepy weird guy who like makes the girl dress up in some weird thing, you know.
No, I guess so. But
it's a trope. It's so common.
But then it's creepy and weird. It's not funny, right? Like, but I guess that's the difference.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's what's missing of this episode. Going back to what you guys were saying before, is that, well, if you really wanted to be a gender, you know, reversal and like of what it feels like to be a woman in a patriarchy, you got to make it way darker and way like harder,
and so way more systematic.
Yeah, and not just like, haha, it's so funny, you know. Like, because that's, you know, or this is great, like,
or sorry, like, systemic. I should sorry, systemic, not systematic, systemic.
I don't know the difference between
specificity.
Hey, Namir, just because you can speak and I can't. Okay, but I wonder. It's funny because we're talking about this. That I wonder if Data took his instructions too literally, in terms of when Picard sends Troi and Yar to be sort of the figureheads and the representatives of the ship. That was for the benefit of the inhabitants because they would only accept like female leadership. But when they're all alone and they're all deciding where they're going to go and what they're going to do, like rescue the hostages, Yar and Troi are making all the decisions and Data's just following, but Data outranks them. So he should be really in charge of the away team when Riker's away.
Yeah, but they put Troi in charge. So Troi actually was in charge of the, he's just following the chain of command.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they were just she was just pretend in charge when she was in front of other women, but the rest of the time, I don't know.
That's a pretty major assumption there, Lucas.
She's a lieutenant commander.
Yeah, revealing some deep-seated prejudices, I believe.
Okay, and so the episode is talking about sexism, but somehow it keeps bringing up the subject of sex, I feel like there's again some sort of okay. So for example, were we gonna say something, Jenny?
No, sorry.
Well, for example, they bring up perfume, so that's like olfactory theme that ties to the virus, and then there's like Data is like, what is perfume? And they're explaining it's like, oh, in certain cultures it's an aphrodisiac and blah blah. And I'm like, really? Is that what perfume is supposed to be? Because that never occurred to me. Is that true? But then it again brings up, and almost all these episodes have these little random little sort of side things into like explaining sex or bringing up sex or talking about sex in some sort of way. And this is the example for this episode. Oh, Jenny, I feel like you have something to say.
Well, it was written by a man, and Maurice Hurley was running the writer's room this season. Him and Gene Roddenberry's lawyer.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, Maurice Hurley, from what I gather, wasn't the best to work with him and Gates McFadden hating each other. And I don't know. I just feel like it's very, I don't know, this, because I don't feel like these themes continue in the same way, like where it's like sexy stuff. I don't feel like it keeps going later.
Right. But it's kind of like the way it's being brought up. It's kind of in this weird, immature, kind of very like a 5-year-old pointing out like, oh look, there's a wee over there. You know, this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I just remember there's also like, they talk about Data's parts too. They're like, I know Data's like, oh, I'll work the computer, and she's like, you can't work the computer, you're a man. And Data's like, oh well, anatomically I'm a man, but really I'm a machine. And she's like, oh, interesting. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What is this coming up for?
Mr. Data will need access to your library.
Our library is far too sophisticated for a man to comprehend.
I am an android mistress. Though anatomically I am a male.
An amusing notion.
But it kind of brings up the whole like naked now fully functional like thing, and it's totally irrelevant to the episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought that was actually a really good example of sorry, and I'm interrupting you.
Oh, me?
Sorry.
No, I was done.
Yeah.
I had nothing else to say on that.
It was a good example of Mistress Beata being more like aggressive and like a more effective role swap. I think in that point. Yeah.
So I'll
Alan?
say, okay, Alan.
No. Namir, go.
What am I doing?
No, Alan, you go first. We'll talk after.
What am I talking about?
I don't know. Sexism, Data.
Sexism? Sex in the episode. Whatever you want to talk about, really.
Well, my problem with this episode is why is he betting ahead of state? That seems very unprofessional. Isn't there protocols about that?
Well, maybe I don't know. You know what? I have no idea.
It seems like he should be like, you know, a bit resistant to it, but he's like totally for it. And I'm like, it just felt like this is not how you should be. This is a very delicate. I mean, I think there's low stakes, but you know, in the show, it's high stakes for them. Like they got to get these people out of there. But he's like, I don't know if having a night of sex with the leader is getting anything done.
But that's what I'm saying. That whole subplot is ridiculous. Like it doesn't make like, any sense whatsoever.
It's so cringy. It's all cringe.
Yeah, it's just it's totally awful. The worst part of that is that stupid meditation tree. That's supposed to be this really ultra special thing, but you know I could probably buy that special gift at like Best Buy or something. You know,
at Winners.
Mention,
Winners,
like they don't sneak out and they get interrupted twice. Like it's like there's like nothing happened.
I know. I like how Trent doesn't even knock. He just walks in and they're just like in bed. Like what?
Trent's the man.
He's like, how's he not fired?
I kind of wish they did more with Trent. Like, to me, Trent was the most interesting character
Absolutely.
in this entire episode. I was hoping like he would be like the mastermind behind everything, or there would be something more to him other than
He
the
really
guy
wanted,
that like
he
tries
really wanted
on.
to kill Ramsey. He's ready. He's
Yeah, I know.
I don't
He's
want
like, I don't want to touch the ball.
Yeah,
It's like, no,
like if he
no.
if he had been, you know, at the end of the episode, like if there was a moment where you saw that he had been influenced by them or something, and then you know that clearly was going to be a problem. Dun, 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 like
Yeah, he'd be like goatee Spock in the alternate reality.
Yeah,
in the mirror universe.
Yeah.
Like he was afraid. He was the one that was afraid of change, and you know,
And they were-
like they get into a fight and he gets pushed into the ball vaporizer thing, and then you know, and then he gets vaporized.
yeah.
I love that. I think the vaporizer is like one of my favorite parts of the episode. It was so like TOS, like
Very
original series type thing where like you walk between two things and there's like a flashing light or something, and
Yeah,
you know,
This whole episode is TOS.
I don't buy the idea that a planet that's led by women has capital punishment, but
but more to the point, I
Shouldn't-
can't believe an episode that is supposed to be, or a planet supposed to be 20th century technology has a vaporizer.
yeah.
is that what
And
they
also,
say?
why
It's
they
20th century
did.
technology. Really?
Yeah, that it's roughly like same advancement level.
Yeah, so
Holy
what the hell are
what?
they doing there? They're not even like, I don't understand how the Prime Directive works in the first season. They're just willy nilly talking
Yeah, they
to
said
all
like,
sorts
oh,
of
Federation
planets.
ship visited here, and I'm like, why? They don't have space
Yeah.
travel.
Point.
It made no sense.
Oh
really
yeah,
good
but they
point.
wanted to establish diplomatic relations with them, so the Prime Directive
Because
doesn't apply
the
at
planet
all.
may be important sometime in the future. Strategically
We'll
important
just
sometime in
change
the
the Prime
future.
Directive to our, you know, when it benefits us, we'll just change the meaning of
amazing.
it.
You know what? I just remember the best part of this episode was at the beginning, where they're like, "Oh yeah, the Odin was 7 years late. We decided to start looking for it now."
Yes, we've ignored your planet for far too
Yeah.
long.
Oh, and by the way, have you seen these men?
Yeah.
God.
We don't want to talk about it.
Eh.
Basically.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I don't know what the name of the actor who plays Trent, but then he comes back in
Snowflake.
The Offspring.
Is
And he
it?
plays Naked Law
Robot Lao.
before she's Law.
Yeah.
Not non-gender Law.
He's a
I do
lovely
know that.
man.
Yeah. They had to like, apparently he had a full body makeup and they had to get in the shower to like scrape it off his body.
You know.
Good story.
He has very smooth skin.
He does.
I just realized, going back to what we were talking about like 25 minutes ago, where Jenny, you were talking about the, you know, all this, you know, Maurice Hurley and sort of episode written by men. I'm like, oh yeah. I just realized what the whole theme of the episode is. It's when Worf says at the beginning of the episode, Klingons like strong women. That is the weirdest thing. And that is actually what the episode is about. It's like some weird male gazy like episode written by a guy about sexism, but it's really like some fetish about like, I like strong women, which is why Riker ends up in bed with the leader, because it's like this weird male fantasy about, it's not really about sexism. It's a weird male fantasy about men trying to subdue or bed strong women.
Yeah.
And that's what the episode's about.
That's, I think, actually a pretty well perfect summary. Well done.
I was afraid that you said, that's exactly what I said before, Lucas.
No,
and then you just-
it wasn't. No.
I was like, oh man, that would have been really
Like,
bad.
That was really well said. No.
Yeah.
No.
So, okay, so I think we've talked about everything. So let's just, how do we feel about the ending? The ending is like the state of execution record gives a lame speech and and convinces them to change their ways. That's when you need Picard. Picard down there would have made a way better speech.
That's what I was like, Riker runs his mouth and says a speech, and then they beam up, and I was like, I guarantee 5 minutes later they executed all those people. They're gone now. It's like, proceed.
Yeah.
Trent, come back in here.
Yeah. Because I find it hard to believe that a 2-minute speech from Riker is gonna like totally change this society.
Yeah, he doesn't have the gravitas. He can't pull off these end of episode speeches.
Not at this point, no.
No, not at this point. Yeah,
he's not Picard.
Not until season 3 of Picard.
This is.
Namir, did we talk about the ending?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, I just it's not like you could see it coming a mile away. It's like there's no big twist, right? You're not like, oh, I wonder if that speech is going to change their mind. Like it's obviously going to work. And then, but the only thing that I was kind of confused about was this. They get exiled to this like a faraway planet that's like going to be a horrendous light, but at least they're
on the
free.
same planet.
Same planet, yeah.
Oh, same planet?
Yeah.
Oh,
they don't have space travel.
Not as nice a place.
Well, why didn't they just go with with Riker? Why didn't they just go with the Enterprise to get dropped off?
That's a really good question.
On a nicer planet.
This was their home.
On a not shitty planet.
Yeah. Did you see where they were living? They were living in a cave.
Yeah.
I know.
And now the women are getting exiled too, so...
Yeah. And they're like, no, I think we made a mistake.
Yeah. Right instead. I just felt like it all wrapped up in a very fast way. In a like, we not.
I feel like this is like one of those, again, another problem with the first season episode where, that's an okay concept. If this fleshed it out and, instead of adding all this stuff up, all this nonsense up on the ship, if they had really fleshed out the stakes and the, and the society and so on and so forth, it could have been really interesting. But, we don't spend enough time with those characters to really care, like to care about Ramsey other than just on a very general level of like, he's fighting for his rights, and then of course, you don't want to see anybody die. But, it just, I mean, every time I see somebody getting vaporized in Star Trek, I find it always a little bit freaky, even though I know it's just like a Amiga switcher effect. Like, to me, I'm more like, imagine if that was me, that'd be like the worst way to go. It's just, I don't even exist anymore. It's horrible.
Well, and you wouldn't know that. I think. Yeah. Right? Like
the Veron T disruptor is the worst way to go.
Oh yeah, it is the worst way to go, but I'm just saying any version of fully just being vaporized is not a good.
Just because of it,
I don't know.
The finality of it.
Yeah, it just seems horrible to me. Some people sharks, some people airplanes, and me, it's disintegrator.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind that. I mean, it'd be really fast. Like I think
it would be really fast.
The idea is it would happen. Yeah, it would happen so quickly you wouldn't know that it happened, right? Like, you're like, I wonder when I'm going to get vaporized.
And you're half second
in the afterlife.
It took a full half second for them to disintegrate that pot. I mean, for a half second, all your atoms are being scrambled, and you're just like in intense pain for that 1 second, and then
maybe it just feels like the transporter where it's just like.
That's true.
It's a
tingle. Yeah, it's a tingly.
No, it tickles.
It's like the worst.
Interesting sensation.
I can't talk about it.
But I would say that if you're a society that has a vaporizer, like you could do a lot with that, right? Like you could vaporize all your garbage. You could, clear out construction sites. You would change society completely. You can get rid of vases for some reason.
Yeah, that vase just sitting there the whole time.
It was a perfectly nice vase.
Unless
why was it in the middle of the
vaporizer
disintegrator? I don't understand.
I don't know. But unless that disintegrator just vaporized vases, that's it. They're like, this only does vases, nothing else.
Maybe that's their trash can. Maybe that's where they put the garbage in. It just gets vaporized.
Right?
That's true. That's true.
Anyway, I just one more comment about the ending is that I really hate that they make a little closing joke and then they're like, okay, let's go off to battle the Romulans, and then it's like roll the credits. And then you think, oh, maybe next week we'll get to see them battle Romulans, and then it's like next week they're at the space station with the Binars, and it's like never mentioned again. Like they could have at least tied it into like the neutral zone and because there was like the Borg stuff in the neutral zone, like it kind of, if you eat your head canon, you can tie it in, but
yeah,
at the same
the
time,
Romulans are creeping.
Nothing came of it. Nothing came of it.
Yeah,
they're out there. I finally get to see the Enterprise in battle, and
they didn't have the budget for that.
Yeah,
wasn't there? I think there was an episode in
the virus.
A matte painting. That was a nice matte painting.
Oh, I will say, I really like those matte paintings on Angel.
Oh, yeah, I love
they were
those.
really well gorgeous.
Yeah.
That's the best part of the episode.
They were great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one is the same one they use for Starbase, whatever it was in Samaritan Snare, where Picard goes to get his heart.
I think they reuse it a few times.
Yeah.
And also in First Contact.
Really?
Oh, nice.
That's
yeah.
the episode First Contact, not the movie First Contact.
Yeah.
I'm saying that to Namir, Denny.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. I appreciate that. I was in my mind, I was like,
there's
that's
this episode called First Contact, FYI.
Really?
It's about First Contact.
In space, you say?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I wish you were watching that episode.
I was so excited for season 2.
I prefer to watch Shades of Grey over this episode.
Fucking purgatory.
Yes. We're all vaporized, and this is where we ended up.
It's hell for us, but heaven for Namir because he loves season 1.
Oh my God.
You're in my heaven.
Okay, let's do our reviews. I think our ratings. I mean, let's do our ratings for this episode out of 10. Oh, and I this is what I was gonna say. This episode reminded me, I think, of the Deadly Years, because the Deadly Years was the same thing. They had like the Romulans. They were talking about the Romulans, we just never got to the Romulans. It was just
we did get to the Romulans in the Deadly Years, and it was awesome.
Okay.
It's like, remember that Commodore
never mind.
took the ship into the neutral zone, and there was a battle, and it was exciting. This had none of that.
Nope. I was like, it was half the episode.
Yeah.
Look how he lit up when you mentioned not this show.
Yeah. Anything but Angel 1. Why are they called Angel 1 anyway? Who named this planet?
I don't know.
Is it just because it has women and angels, and they think they're more feminine? Yeah. I don't know what. You think they would be like Kathendadar or whatever? I don't know. Make up a name.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's a pretty middle of the road episode, so I'm going to give it a 5. So it's not, obviously it's not great. It's not the worst one. It's not awful. I can think of other episodes that I didn't like. So yeah, I think I'm going to stick with a 5.
Alan.
Well, I gave Daedalus a 5, but I felt much more entertained by that episode because at least it wasn't boring. This is very boring and unentertaining. So, I mean, I got to give it less than a 5. So I'm going to give this one like a 3 out of 10. There wasn't a whole lot there that interested me. There was a lot of missed potential, and that's basically all I had to say about that.
Forrest Gump. What?
And that's all I have to say about that.
Jenny.
I think because I've set my scale with data lore. What am I saying?
Oh,
data
man.
lore.
Anyway. Dr. Pulaski over here.
I'm so excited for Dr. Pulaski. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna give this a 5, which it feels low, but it's also but I feel the same way that I felt about this episode coming in. That basically on the list. It's an episode.
I think this is the lowest. This is the lowest rating that you've ever given.
My God,
episode.
Yeah.
Just
it's a TV show episode.
Yeah. It's an episode. It's not Code of Honor.
Right?
That's
Even
true. Code of Honor.
Alan says he likes Code of Honor.
I felt more entertained by Code of Honor than I felt entertained by this. I mean,
you were busy being horrified.
It's really crappy, but at least it's not as boring. Like more's going on.
It's not boring. You're right.
Yeah, there's a fight.
It's not boring.
There's a
there
fight.
Is at least a fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
The last time I watched Code of Honor, I was glued to my TV set. Like,
I know. Like
happening?
It's engaging because you can't believe it's actually filmed. But this here is just boring. Like, yeah, it's just TV. It's a TV episode.
I don't even like their outfits. Like the men's outfits are nice, the women's outfits are meh. You know?
I like how they in this episode they went out and found all the basketball players, women basketball players or whatever of LA and just brought them all to the set. And then went out found the shortest men possible and they just to do that gender reversal. I will give this episode I'll give it a 5 out of 10 as well. It's not a great episode. It's fine. I don't mind it as much as it's just kind of blah. And I don't find it as bad as many other episodes in season 1. I find it's like a better episode than I'm just imagining right now everybody's response. It's a better episode than so I can't remember.
Go on.
Okay, the too short a season. It's too short a season. The way worse episode.
That's pretty bad.
The one with the space cloud with Picard. What's that episode?
Times Squared.
No. The one Among Us season.
Lowly Among Us.
Lowly Among Us. Oh, yes, that's a way worse episode of this.
Yeah.
No, I like those ones better. I mean, they're not great, but they're better than this.
Arsenal of Freedom is way better than this. Arsenal of Freedom is my jam. I love Arsenal of Freedom.
Yes.
It's fine. Yeah. I mean,
tell me the weapons on the USS Lollipop, Commander Riker. I love that.
All right, so I give it a 10. I give it.
Whoa! Wow! Yeah.
Oh my God!
Freudian slip. Okay, he actually loves it. I think this is my favorite.
Like
but
they must
I
never
can't admit
know.
to these people.
Are you enjoying this episode? You know what? If you are, you should hit the old like button and subscribe to the channel. You can also hit the little bell for notifications. Tell your friends.
All right, we'll be back next week to review more Star Trek The Next Generation, and we'll be doing episode 11001001.
Wait, no, we did this already. Are we doing all these episodes again? I don't understand.
I think he's doing it because
he's just introducing the next
episode. Oh. Hopefully you can edit that before Demir just jumps down your throat.
Just where is the future?